I woke up like weirdly early, so I'm filming this at 9 a.m. For reference. I usually don't start filming until noon at the earliest, so weird. Which means I don't even know if my brain is fully like booted up. So this will be an experience to record and have for the rest of the world to see. Okay, cool. Hey! It's Kendall here. If you're new around here, welcome. If you're not new around here, what is up, home skillet biscuit? And happy Saturday. If you don't know what Saturday is when I do a little something on my channel called Bad Movies in a Beat. The series on my channel where I talk about bad movies while putting my makeup on. And today, we're returning to Passionflix, the streaming site that I have now made about 6 or 7 videos about. And I just keep coming back for more because I love trash. So for those of you that don't know what Passionflix is, especially if you're newer to the channel, you'd have no idea, because I think, as far as I've seen, not a whole lot of people talk about Passionflix but me. I'm like the singular person, I think, keeping them alive. Passionflix is this streaming site where they take really badly written, horrible romance novels and turn them into equally, if not more badly written and performed romance film adaptations. And I've always kind of compared it to like Lifetime level quality, if that's what you're familiar with. However, because it's a streaming site, they can do R-rated, so you might see a titty here or there. For those of you wondering, because there's a sizable amount of people that are like, when are they gonna throw you a bag? They have yet to email me. My email is where it's always been. But since they're not gonna sponsor your girl, it works out because someone else will. So I'm gonna send it over to AdRoll Kennie, ahoy, and allow her to secure the bag that Passionflix seems to be reluctant to give. I wouldn't give me any money if I were them either, to be honest with you. I'll talk about you for free. AdRoll Kennie, go ahead. Hello. AdRoll Kennie looking pretty rough. That's because I've been ripping and running all over my house, packing, and you don't realize how much stuff you really have until you have to put your entire apartment into boxes. It's really, I need to take up minimalism. Anyway, but one of the things that has been making this whole experience a little bit less awful has been Raycon, today's sponsor. Raycon's everyday earbuds provide incredible sound, incredible battery life, and incredible comfort, all for half the price of other premium audio brands. Themselves hold an 8-hour charge, so I can rip and run even without the case if I didn't have it. And the audio case itself has a 32-hour battery life, so you don't have to charge that every 3 seconds either. The new everyday earbuds offer an improved rubber oil look and feel that are not only beautiful, but also incredibly functional, as well as optimized gel tips for the perfect in-ear fit. I talked about this in my first Raycon integration, which, side note, wasn't that long ago. I guess they like your girl. One of the things that I've really appreciated about Raycon is that they don't easily come out of my ear. Love that. So now that I've been ripping and running, lifting boxes up, bending over, cleaning things, I don't have to worry about them coming out every 3 seconds. They also have different audio modes for the type of sound quality you want. Personally, I'm a bass mode girl. I like to feel it in your tummy, make you need to poop. That's why I call it the doo-doo note. They gonna make me edit that out. They're sleek, they're stylish, they're lightweight. They also have a really good quality mic, so you can answer calls with the press of a button. And they're just seamless and integral to this entire moving process. I really appreciate it. I've been able to listen to hours and hours and hours of YouTube videos without having to stop and charge my headphones, and it's just been peak. Raycon comes with a 45-day happiness guarantee, so feel free to check them out down below and go to buyraycon.com/Kennie to get 20% off your Raycon purchase. Big thanks to Raycon for sponsoring today's video. Now let's get back to the debauchery. Okay, so last week we talked about, After We Fell. It was a very forgettable experience. It was somehow worse than all the other ones. What little that series has, it decided that it's too good for suddenly. And now the movie is just so empty. Like there's nothing in it. Nothing is happening. And my video is more interesting. I'm just gonna say that. So feel free to watch it. It'll be linked up above and it'll be in the Bad Movies and a Beat playlist, baby. Okay, so this week, we're finally returning to the Gabriel's Inferno series. This one's been a whirlwind. Today we're talking about Gabriel's Inferno Part 3. If you haven't seen my other 2 videos on Gabriel's Inferno, I will link those down below because it's a lot. Gabriel's Inferno is the story of Julia Mitchell, who is a master's student, and she's in love with her best friend's brother, who is also her professor Gabriel. It's a tale as old as time, you know, abusive man who we, for some reason, think is hot for being abusive. Or we're supposed to, at least. Falling in love with the meek virgin, and it's just the progression of their events leading to an ultimate climax, no pun intended, where they finally have sex. I think it was the last video I did on this when I realized that this is also a Twilight fanfiction turned novel turned movie, which just broke me down because it's like inescapable. Miss Myers done made so many bags off of us. We will never go back to love stories that are in some way Bacon Number-esque related to Twilight, and it's just very, very sad. But now we're on to the third movie. I generally have a rule of thumb that the third movie or the third season of something, it's probably gonna be the worst out of all of them. Perfect example was last week. Like, I don't love the After series, but the second one was at least entertaining, but the third one just had nothing. And in many ways, this movie is pretty similar. My theory is that by the time you get to the third season of something, what you use to make it special is kind of used up by the end of the second season. So now you're going into like a new arc of events that often we just don't care about. Shout outs to You. I didn't like You season 3. Like, I watched it. Felt very Gossip Girl-esque, ironically, considering Penn Badgley was in Gossip Girl. Would you guys want a video on that? Considering it's been several weeks, probably no one cares anymore. But if you'd like my thoughts on You season 3 or just You in general, let me know, because I've been considering doing a video on that, but I just haven't gotten around to it. So with Gabriel's Inferno, from what I understand, and I'm not going to check on specifics because it's all trash anyway, but the books are set up like Dante's Inferno, and so there's like sections of their relationship. First book is Dante's Inferno, which they have now made into 3 parts, 3 different movies, and now we're on the final movie of that. There's gonna be like 12 movies. I have mixed feelings about that for obvious reasons. I do this for content, but also, damn, 12 of these movies, but I'm gonna watch them. Gabriel's Rapture is coming out at the end of this month, if I'm correct, so I wanted to get this out of the way before that comes out. Being that this movie doesn't really have a whole lot going on, I suspect that this video is gonna be quite short because, spoiler, about a whole third of the movie is one specific scene towards the end, which I can only talk about so much. So without further ado, this is Gabriel's Inferno, part 3. Yay. Okay, so movie begins. They have, again, the exact same intro. They said, we gonna get our money's worth for this one. Old Italian art, lacrimosa, you know, the work. If you recall, at the end of the last movie, basically Julia had gotten a call from her abusive ex, Simon. He was calling about some pictures that he said that she had, and he was gonna come get her. And he says that if she doesn't give him back these random photos, that he's going to show her father a video of her giving him oral sex. Maybe this is me putting hope in patriarchy, but one would think if you sent this to her dad, that would make you the asshole? Like, whatever, that's a lot to process. I'm sorry. What? But anyway, she gets off the phone crying, and here comes Gabriel. He picks up the phone, and he starts to threaten Simon for blackmailing Julia. Now, I do not blame the actor for doing his lines like this, because as I've mentioned before, he does have a pretty thick accent, like a thick Italian accent. I blame the director, and I blame Elon Musk. I forgot to mention this. Apparently Passionflix is Tuskamus, his sister's company. I will blame Elon Musk for everything. I believe this is a money laundering scheme, but it creates garbage, so how can I stay away? But anyway, no, the director didn't tell him to retake this scene, and if I wasn't watching this with captions, because I watch everything with captions, I wouldn't know what he said. Like,
I'm going to come after you, and not even your father, whoever he is, will be able to make you sunshine again.
Not even your father, whoever he is, will be able to make you sentient again. Is that what I heard? No, that's what I read. So, and then for dramatic effect, for some reason, he throws the phone on the ground. Like, that's her phone. Throw your Julia's really concerned because he filmed this without her consent, and apparently he has the ability to do worse because his dad's a politician. My dad's a lawyer energy, you know? And with all those connections, he could literally ruin her life. Gabriel, who seems like exceedingly aware that he's in a romance novel, is like, he can do nothing to you. I was like, He probably could. I think she has very real reason to be concerned if that were truly the case. So she ends up hiding this encounter because apparently she believes that her father wouldn't believe her. Your dad sucks. Because again, if your ex did this and sent it to your father, he should theoretically understand that that makes him terrible, but okay. In fairness, there are a lot of not dads out there, so. Side note, I don't know why, but I have Shiny Replay stuck in my head. And I don't know why. It came out of nowhere. Replay, replay, replay. Nuna Night MVP. Did I do it right? Another thing that doesn't make sense or I don't understand is who the f this guy is. Because Gabriel and Julia walk into his parents' home, his adoptive parents, and without introducing himself or introducing us more specifically to who he is, no one says who he is. So as far as we see, it's just this random guy in their house.
Professor Emerson, that must be quite the turn on. Do you have all your women call you that too? Must be really hot in the bedroom.
From what I gather, he's like another sibling. But again, this is the third movie, and this is the first we're seeing him. And the last. This is one of the many plot points they just start and go nowhere with. So there being another sibling is news to us. And they never really explain who he is. I guess he's their brother. In our first introduction to him, he's just going gung-ho, saying like really rude and sexual things. And we're just like, oh, okay, cool. Like, what? But Gabriel and Julia are hiding this relationship from the rest of their family. The sister knows, but I don't know why. I guess it's, you know, something to spice up this otherwise pretty uneventful story. I mean, the only thing that we have is the abusive ex, which, spoiler, isn't really gonna carry this movie. That conflict specifically doesn't really stick around for the majority of the movie, so I guess we need something. Even if they found out, there's not much to say that they wouldn't be okay with it, you know? I don't know. There's a lot of this movie that I'm not even gonna talk about because most of it is just this like oddly ill-timed, super romantic lovey-dovey stuff. I'm gonna skip a bunch of those scenes because it's literally, it doesn't do anything to push the storyline forward. There's one in the parents' house. The only reason I'm gonna mention that is because of how comically different the sizes of their heads are. That's the only thing I noticed. It looked like Pac-Man. Also, he says explicitly that he would like to have sex with her, which is the first time in this series where he's ever said it so explicitly. The thing is, this is a movie. It's also a movie based off of Twilight. So they're gonna like say that, but not really have sex until it's like a catalyst. Like it is the final act in this movie, figuratively and literally. Being that this is Passionflix and so much of the movies are based off of just the general horniness of the viewer, this is the only movie I've seen from Passionflix where the couple has abstained from having sex for 2 movies. They said if we're gonna do that and they're having sex in this third one, we gotta make it an event, you know? So they don't have sex. When they talk about it, they're like, we have to wait until the perfect moment or whatever, which is fine. But it creates this reoccurring theme where they kind of come out of nowhere. I want to have sex with you, but not now. But I would like to have sex with you, but not now. But I want to no real stipulations stopping them from having sex. You know what I mean? Because in Twilight, his whole thing was like, I could literally you to death. Like my dick could break your bones. Or even to some degree, if there was like a religious reason why they're not having sex, there's none of that. It's just them saying no. But I want to, but no, but I want to. It's like, what's stopping you? But because this is a movie, they've decided to make the sex like the final act. Before that, we need some lukewarm drama. She talks about how she wants a future with him, having kids running around, and he basically says to her, I cannot have kids. I had a vasectomy 6 years ago. Yeah, so can't do that. And she's like, okay, well, I love you. We can address this some other time.
Later.
Simon, the abusive ex-boyfriend, comes over to be the abusive ex-boyfriend, I guess, to get those damn pictures he keeps going on about. And then Gabriel at his parents' house, so a whole other house, as if he has like a sexual assault spider sense, he just for some reason psychically goes to her house right as Simon was about to assault her. In the course of his assault on her, he ends up biting her neck. She's able to get away from him and barricade the door as Gabriel comes over, beats the shit out of him, and threaten him to never talk to her again. I thought that this whole sequence of events would be like the driving force of this movie. I thought he would come back in the final act, or like he would try to do something with all that power he's always talking about in regards to like his father or whatever. But we're 30 minutes into the movie and he's just gone for the rest of it. I don't know if they don't even like suggest that he might be back in the next movie. When I was looking at the trailer, they don't really show that might be a conflict of the next movie. So they just brought it and dropped it. And I'm just like, okay. The only thing that this did is give her a scar that she mentions briefly throughout the rest of the movie as being like something she's working through, because that's very traumatic for her. And now it's like this reminder of that. But as far as him as a villain, that's it. It's like they realized, okay, people are really only here for the sex, so we're doing this as like a formality so that this isn't strictly softcore pornography. Even the conflict that sort of comes up after that, which was Gabriel and Julia's father fighting over like how he's not great at protecting his daughter. They start that and drop it as well. Like their animosity towards each other doesn't really go anywhere either. So traumatized from the assault, as you'd imagine, Julia tries to regain her power by seducing Gabriel. And for once, Gabriel realizes, oh, that's pretty f***ed up. I shouldn't do that. So he's like, no, I'm not going to take advantage. You're not really doing this because you want to, you're doing this because you're traumatized. She ends up telling the story of why she never had sex with Simon, which was basically because he was very possessive and abusive and controlling. And then she ended up leaving him after he cheated on her with her roommate. I think there's a line about them saying, why don't you join? And they laughed at her, which I understand if that actually happened in real life would be very traumatizing. However, it just sounded like a porno setup to me. So I just started laughing, and I shouldn't have laughed. I'm sorry about your trauma, girl. But she's currently in this whole pickle with her father because her father is currently dating that roommate's mom. Messy. Ghetto. I'm interested. But they don't really go anywhere with that either. They don't even really talk about that. Like none of the conflicts that they begin in this movie really went anywhere. So we don't really see much with the dad being resolved. We don't see anything with this Simon dude. Speaking of conflicts that they don't really do much with, we get the story behind Gabriel's tattoo. I don't even know if I've even really talked about this. I didn't think it would be important, to be honest with you, but I should have, because they did kind of lean into how it must be kind of important in the first movie, but there was so much going on in the first movie that it was the least important thing to me. He has this hideous tattoo on his chest, and it says the name Maya, M-A-I-A. And she asks him about the tattoo. Because this is a movie, he has to be very cryptic about it, so he describes it. And we, as the audience, and Julia, believes that it might be a woman he was in love with. And he's like, no, it's not like that. She not as nosy as me, I guess, because she don't ask, well, what is it? This whole inquiry into the tattoo sends him into a depression episode. And he ends up finally confessing that the tattoo... He opens this in the worst way possible. He opens it because he knows he's in a movie. That's what I mean. There's so much about this movie that you can tell was only done for dramatic effect, and it's so annoying. He's like, I have something to tell you, and I don't believe you will like me anymore after you learn this. And I was thinking he was gonna say like, oh, I cheated on somebody before.
Gabriel, please.
I'm a murderer. I took an innocent life.
You win this time, movie. He got me. But when he starts to talk about the actual background behind this statement, it's actually even stupider than I thought it would have been. Because the very long story about this is that the tattoo is actually the name of his child that passed away. And I was like, is this gonna be like a whole Stephanie Meyer abortion is bad like diatribe? And it kind of is, honestly. Back when I was a soda machine, I was full of Coke. In the midst of that time in my life, the only thing I cared about were drugs and my dissertation. Multitasker. I met this girl and we were in like a casual sexual relationship, and she ended up getting pregnant, and I wanted her to get an abortion, but she didn't. And she taped the sonogram to my refrigerator or something. And I was like, that's my baby. She has the baby, and they were both very much so in the depths of their addiction. Somehow the baby died. They don't really go into detail on that. My thing is, because I have so many questions, what happened? We don't know if the baby fell. We don't know if the baby was hurt by the mother.
Or Gabriel, for that matter. He did call himself a murderer.
We don't know anything. It was just the baby dead. Because Gabriel was so strung out, he was unconscious and he couldn't like call the ambulance in time, and the mother couldn't call the ambulance in time. So he takes that on as his personal responsibility for his role in their baby's death. Now, somehow through the course of telling this story, Julia is somehow able to deduce that it all happened the same day as the first day that she kissed him in the orchard or whatever. Really gross moment that's supposedly romantic, but she was definitely underage and he wasn't. Sizably not underage. And anyway, somehow she's able to deduce that happened the same day. I don't know how she was able to do that, but it's a movie. So, and she's like sitting there reminding him of his humanity, and yeah, you know, Twilight. They're just stronger than ever, their relationship now, because of that. They go to Italy for some reason. I don't know why. Presumably because we have to get to this final act where they finally have sex. We've waited now at this point accumulatively over 5 hours watching them do stuff. When are they getting to fucking, is what I presume the audience is thinking. I'm not, because I don't mind sex in movies, but often I find that sex is used instead of like a plot. And this is a perfect example of that. Like if I wanted to see two people have sex for 22 minutes, that's how long they have sex, people. 20. It's kind of impressive, honestly. If I wanted to see that much of two people having sex, I would just watch pornography. Like they do some lecture stuff, go to museums, and they go back to the hotel and they have sex for a very long time on screen. I've seen worse. If we're talking about the quality of the sex scene, I've seen sizably worse, but it's just so damn long. It literally is 22 minutes. It's a fourth of this movie. The only critique I have is that there's a point where Gabriel says to the virgin that her getting on top of him is the better way to go. No, it's not. It's not at all. Absolutely not. Don't do that. If I had to have sex for the first time, I wouldn't recommend it. That's a lot of gravity. And that's the movie. That's it. I know you're sitting there like, I watched your video, Kendo, and nothing happened. Exactly. 25% of this movie, it's literally just them having sex. And like plot lines they start and don't finish. Usually I do like a whole final thoughts thing, but I don't really know what to say. Nothing happened. Usually the end of the movie is like the final act, the catalyst, the end of like the villain's tyranny or something. They ended the movie with them. They were like, we finally beat her virginity. Like, we never figure out really anything. We never figure out anything about those photos that Simon was going on about. Like, what were in the photos? Did she have the photo? What photos? We never found out anything about the photos. We don't get a nod that he's gonna be back in the next movie.
Also, nothing from the last two movies was really even brought up either, conflict-wise. Like, whatever happened to the BDSM professor girl? What happened to her? She just was around for 3 seconds to be weird and then left.
I feel like they should have called this Gabriel's Inferno. Get to f***ing. And I think that would have really cemented the general purpose of this movie, because that must be all they were really focused on. I feel like, considering we did After We Fell last week, these two movies feel very similar, and maybe that is just another example of my thing that I was talking about before. It's like when you get to the third one, things fall apart. And when you have two things that weren't really that well built together anyway, it's just like a catastrophe. Weirdly, I think this one is even more so a catastrophe because, again, a fourth of the movie, it's one sex scene. Yeah, wild. I know. Okay. Yeah. So anyway, that's all for today, folks. If you like this video, feel free to like it. Follow me on all my social media, Instagram, Twitter, both of which are KennieJD. If you want to recommend any more bad movies to me, feel free to put them down in the comment section. And I will see you guys next time.